The black Mercedes glided through Seoul's morning traffic like a shark through water. In the back seat, Min-Jun Kim sat rigid, his expensive suit perfectly pressed, his face an unreadable mask. Beside him, his 6-year-old daughter Hannah stared out the tinted window, her small hands folded in her lap, silent as a ghost. 8 months. It had been 8 months since he'd done this, since he'd taken her to school himself. 8 months since Sujin died. 8 months since the light went out of his daughter's eyes. Pulling up to the school's entrance, Min-Jun expected the usual. Hannah would slip out quietly, maybe a whispered goodbye, Appa, if he was lucky. Then she'd walk slowly toward the building, her shoulders hunched, carrying grief too heavy for such small bones. But the car hadn't even fully stopped when the door flew open. Hannah's face transformed. Her eyes, those sad, empty eyes, suddenly blazed with pure joy. Her mouth split into a grin so wide, so genuine, that Min-Jun felt his breath catch. This was his daughter. This was the child he remembered from before the funeral, before the nightmares, before everything turned to ash. She didn't look at him, didn't say goodbye. She just ran. Her backpack bounced against her spine as her little legs pumped across the playground. Min-Jun leaned forward, following her trajectory, and then he saw who she was running toward. A woman stood near the school entrance, tall, with rich brown skin that caught the morning sun, her hair pulled back in a neat bun. She wore a simple blue dress and sensible flats, and when she saw Hannah running toward her, she dropped into a crouch, her arms opening wide. Hannah crashed into those arms like a wave hitting shore. The woman caught her, spun her slightly, and the sound that erupted from his daughter's throat punched through the car's expensive soundproofing and straight into Min-Jun's chest. Laughter. Real, bubbling, uninhibited laughter. Min-Jun froze, his hand on the door handle, watching through the tinted glass. The woman, the teacher, it had to be a teacher, held his daughter close, saying something that made Hannah giggle again. Then she pulled back, tucking a strand of hair behind Hannah's ear with such natural tenderness that Min-Jun had to look away, his throat tight. That gesture. Sujin used to do that. Who was that? His voice came out rougher than intended. The driver checked his mirror. The new teacher, sir. Miss Sarah. She started 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. His daughter had been this happy, this alive, for 3 weeks, and he didn't even know. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this story, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us what you think, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and make more content like this for you. Now, let's continue with Min-Jun's journey. That evening, Min-Jun sat in his office. All black marble and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering sprawl of Seoul. This room had witnessed countless deals, threats whispered in smoke-filled air, envelopes of cash exchanged for loyalty or silence. From here, he controlled half the underground economy in the city. Men feared his name. Empires rose or fell at his word. None of it mattered when his 6-year-old wouldn't smile at him. His second-in-command, Taeyong, entered without knocking, one of the few privileges of 15 years of loyalty. He placed a manila folder on the desk. Everything on the teacher, boss. Min-Jun opened it with steady hands, though something in his chest felt unsteady. Sarah Collins, 28, African-American, UCLA graduate with honors, teaching credential, 2 years in the Peace Corps before moving to Seoul 8 months ago. Clean record. No debts. No scandals. No connections to any organization, legal or otherwise. Too clean? Or just genuinely good? A note from the school administrator was clipped to the file. Miss Sarah has a remarkable gift with children, especially those dealing with trauma and loss. Hannah has shown significant improvement in class participation and social engagement since Miss Sarah arrived. Significant improvement. The words mocked him. A stranger had accomplished in 3 weeks what he couldn't manage in 8 months. Want me to dig deeper? Taeyong asked, reading his boss's silence. No. Min-Jun closed the folder. That won't be necessary. What would be necessary was seeing this for himself. The next afternoon, Min-Jun arrived at the school early, another rarity that made his driver raise an eyebrow but say nothing. He parked across the street, far enough to avoid notice, close enough to see. Through the large classroom windows on the ground floor, he could see them. Sarah knelt beside a low table where Hannah sat with paintbrushes and paper. His daughter's face was animated in a way that made Min-Jun's chest ache. She was talking, actually talking, her little hands gesturing as she explained something about her painting. Sarah listened with her whole body, nodding, asking questions that made Hannah think and respond. Then Sarah laughed, her head tilting back, and even through the glass, Minjun could see the warmth of it, the genuineness. She reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind Hannah's ear, that same gesture from this morning, and Hannah beamed up at her with such trust, such affection, that Minjun had to grip the steering wheel to steady himself. This woman, this stranger, had become something to his daughter, something important, something he should have been but wasn't. The bell rang. Children began filing out. Minjun got out of the car, straightening his suit jacket, and walked toward the school entrance. He arrived just as Hannah emerged, holding Sarah's hand. They were talking, Hannah in English, Sarah responding in careful Korean, then switching back to English. His daughter looked up at the teacher with stars in her eyes. "See you tomorrow, sunshine," Sarah said, crouching down to Hannah's level. "See you tomorrow, teacher Sarah." Hannah's voice was bright, musical. Then Hannah turned and saw her father standing by the school gate. The transformation was instant and devastating. Her smile faltered. Her shoulders drew in. She became small again, muted, like someone had turned down her volume. "Appa," she said quietly, dutiful but distant. Sarah stood, her eyes moving from Hannah to Minjun, and something flickered across her face. Understanding, maybe, or sadness. She stepped forward, and Minjun found himself looking up slightly. She was taller than he'd expected, probably 5'10", and she met his gaze without flinching. Most people couldn't do that. Most people saw his face and looked away, recognizing the danger, the power, the implicit threat. This woman just looked at him with calm, assessing eyes. "Mr. Kim," she said, extending her hand. Her English was clear, confident. "I'm Sarah, Hannah's teacher. It's nice to finally meet you." Her handshake was firm, professional. Her palm was warm against his. "You've been good for my daughter," Minjun said in English, his accent slight but present. The words felt inadequate. She'd been a miracle for his daughter, but he didn't know how to say that. "Hannah's a wonderful child," Sarah replied, glancing down at the little girl who stood between them, quiet now, withdrawn. She just needed someone to see her. The words landed like a slap, though her tone was gentle, without accusation. But Minjun heard the implication. See her. Really see her. Not look at her and see his dead wife. Not avoid her because her grief reminded him of his own. Actually see her. "Thank you," he managed. "For seeing her." Something softened in Sarah's expression. "It's my privilege, Mr. Kim. Hannah is special." She squeezed Hannah's hand once more, then let go. Hannah walked to her father slowly, mechanically, and slipped her small hand into his. It felt like holding a bird, fragile, ready to flee. As they walked to the car, Minjun looked back once. Sarah stood watching them, her arms crossed, her expression thoughtful and maybe a little sad. That night, Minjun couldn't sleep. He stood in his home office, staring out at the Seoul skyline, his mind churning. 2 days later, he made a decision. He called the school directly, asking for Sarah. When she came to the phone, her voice was cautious. "Mr. Kim, is everything all right with Hannah?" "Hannah is the same," he said, which was the problem. "I'm calling with a proposition. I'd like to hire you as Hannah's private tutor. 3 evenings a week. I'll pay triple your current salary." Silence on the line. Then, "Mr. Kim, I appreciate the offer, but I have to ask, is this really about Hannah's education?" The question caught him off guard. What else would it be about? "I need to know this is for the right reasons," Sarah said carefully. "Hannah needs stability, not complications. She needs consistency. If this is about something other than her well-being, I can't." "My daughter lights up for you the way she used to light up for her mother," Minjun interrupted, his voice rough with honesty. "That's reason enough. She's been lost since Sujin died. I've been lost. But with you, she's found again. Even if it's only at school, even if it's only for a few hours, she's herself again. I want more of that for her. I want her to have that at home too." Another pause. He could hear Sarah breathing, thinking. "I'll do it," she finally said. "But I have conditions. I set the curriculum. I set the boundaries with Hannah. And if I ever think this arrangement isn't serving her best interests, I walk away. No questions, no negotiations." "Agreed. When do you want me to start?" "Tomorrow." He heard the smile in her voice. "Tomorrow's fine, Mr. Kim. I'll see you at 6. After he hung up, Minjun stood in the dark quiet of his office and wondered what he'd just set in motion. He didn't tell her about his real work. Didn't mention that the Kim family controlled territory from Gangnam to Itaewon, that his word could end careers or lives, That the pristine mansion she'd be entering tomorrow was bought with money that came from a dozen different illegal enterprises. None of that mattered. What mattered was that his daughter might smile again. What mattered was that maybe, just maybe, he could learn how to be her father again instead of just her ghost. The Kim mansion sat in the heart of Gangnam like a modern fortress. High walls, security cameras at every angle, guards who nodded respectfully as Sarah's taxi pulled up to the gate. She'd known Min-jun was wealthy. The expensive suits, the Mercedes, the way the school administrator's voice had changed when she mentioned his name. But this was different. This was power. The gate opened smoothly. Her taxi drove up a curved driveway lined with perfectly manicured gardens. The house itself was all glass and steel and sharp angles, beautiful in a cold, untouchable way. A man in a dark suit met her at the entrance. "Miss Sarah, Mr. Kim is expecting you. I'll show you to the library." Sarah followed him through a foyer with marble floors that echoed her footsteps, past rooms that looked more like museum displays than living spaces. Everything was perfect, expensive, and utterly lifeless. Until she heard it, a squeal of delight that echoed down one of the hallways. Teacher Sarah. Hannah came running, her school uniform replaced by a simple pink dress, her hair loose around her shoulders. She crashed into Sarah's legs, hugging her tight. "Hey, sunshine," Sarah said, crouching down to return the hug properly. "Are you ready to learn some new things today?" "Yes. Appa said you're going to teach me at home now too." "That's right. 3 times a week. Is that okay with you?" Hannah nodded enthusiastically, then grabbed Sarah's hand and started pulling her forward. "Come on. Appa made a special room for us." The library was a surprise. Unlike the cold perfection of the rest of the house, this room was warm. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with children's books, a thick carpet in soft cream, bean bags and cushions scattered around a low table perfect for a child's height. Art supplies organized in colorful bins. A globe. Educational posters on the walls. Min-jun stood near the window, hands in his pockets, watching them enter. He'd changed from his suit into dark slacks and a simple black sweater. It made him look younger, less intimidating. Almost. "Mr. Kim," Sarah acknowledged. "Miss Sarah." He gestured to the room. "I hope this is suitable. If you need anything else." "It's perfect," Sarah interrupted gently. "Really, you didn't have to do all this. I wanted Hannah to have a space where learning felt safe." "Good," Sarah nodded, understanding what he wasn't saying. "A space where Hannah could be herself." "Mr. Kim, I'll need you to give us privacy during the lessons," Sarah said. "Hannah needs to feel this is her time, her space." Without observation, she watched him struggle with that, saw the desire to stay and watch his daughter be happy warring with respect for Sarah's boundaries. "Of course," he finally said. "I'll be in my office. Across the hall. If you need anything." "We'll be fine," Sarah assured him. Min-jun walked to the door, then paused. He looked at Hannah, seemed about to say something, but the words didn't come. Instead, he just nodded and left, closing the door quietly behind him. "Okay, sunshine," Sarah said, turning to Hannah with a smile. "What should we work on today?" Across the hall, Min-jun sat at his desk, pretending to work. But all he could hear was the sound of his daughter's laughter floating through the walls. Sarah's voice, warm and encouraging. Hannah's responses, growing more confident with each exchange. They sang an English song about colors. Sarah's voice was surprisingly good, melodic and clear. Hannah joined in, stumbling over some words, but trying. Actually trying. An hour passed. It felt like both an eternity and a heartbeat. When the door finally opened, Min-jun was there immediately, though he tried to look casual about it. Hannah bounded out, clutching a piece of paper. "Appa, look, Teacher Sarah taught me how to draw a butterfly. A real one, with symmetry." She thrust the drawing at him. It was good, better than he expected. The butterfly had detailed wings with patterns that mirrored each other, antennae, even little legs. "It's beautiful, Hannah," Min-jun said softly, taking the paper like it was made of gold. His daughter had given him something, had shown him something, had spoken to him first for once, instead of waiting to be spoken to. "You can keep it," Hannah said, suddenly shy. "I will treasure it," he promised, and meant it. Sarah emerged from the library, her bag over her shoulder. "She did wonderful work today, Mr. Kim. Hannah's very bright and creative. Will you stay for tea?" The words came out before Min-jun could stop them. "I mean, it's getting late, and the traffic." "Tea would be nice," Sarah said, her eyes kind. "Thank you." They sat in the kitchen, a space that actually felt lived in, probably because the cook used it daily. Hannah sat between them, drinking juice and chattering about her day at school, about the butterfly she'd drawn, about everything and nothing. Minjun watched Sarah interact with his daughter. The way she listened, really listened, giving Hannah her full attention. The way she asked follow-up questions that made Hannah think. The way she laughed at Hannah's jokes, even the ones that weren't particularly funny. Hannah, Sarah said after a while. Why don't you go get that book you told me about? The one with the photos. Hannah nodded eagerly and scampered off. Sarah turned to Minjun, her expression more serious now. She's doing well in my class, Mr. Kim. Better than well. But I notice she's very quiet during group activities. She watches the other children play but rarely joins in. She used to be different, Minjun said quietly. Before, she was the loudest child in any room. Always laughing, always making friends. What changed? Her mother died. The words came out flat. Factual. 8 months ago. Car accident. Wrong place, wrong time. Sarah's expression softened with understanding and sorrow. I'm so sorry. Hannah was with her. In the car. She saw everything. Minjun's hands tightened around his teacup. Physically, she wasn't hurt. But inside. Trauma, Sarah said gently. Has she seen anyone? A counselor. 3 different ones. She wouldn't talk to any of them. Minjun looked toward where Hannah had gone. She stopped talking much at all after the funeral. Until you. Mr. Kim. Minjun. Please. We're going to be seeing quite a bit of each other. Minjun, Sarah corrected. Can I ask you something? And I need you to be honest. He nodded. When's the last time you really talked to Hannah? Not about her day, not about homework. About her mother. About what happened. About how she feels. Minjun's jaw tightened. That's not your concern. With respect, it is. Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. She drew a picture in class today. Before our tutoring session, I mean. It was her family. She included her mother, me, and herself. You weren't in it. The words hit like a physical blow. Minjun set down his teacup carefully, his hand not quite steady. I don't know how, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Every time I look at her, I see Sue Jean. I see my wife's eyes looking back at me. I see what I couldn't protect. What I failed to keep safe. You didn't fail. I did. His voice was sharp now. Edged with pain, he usually kept locked away. My world, my work, it made us targets. Sue Jean knew the risks when she married me. But Hannah never had a choice. She's in danger every day just by being my daughter. And I couldn't even keep her mother safe. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Hannah doesn't need you to protect her from grief, Minjun. She needs you to grieve with her. She needs to know she's not alone in missing her mother. She needs to know you're still here, still her father, even though you're both broken. I don't know how to do that. You learn, Sarah said simply. You try, you fail, you try again. That's what parenting is. That's what love is. Hannah's footsteps echoed in the hallway. Sarah stood, shouldering her bag. Think about it, she said. I'll see you both on Thursday. The second session went much like the first. And the third, a routine began to form. Sarah arrived at 6, spent an hour with Hannah in the library, then stayed for tea. Each time, Hannah grew a little more animated. Each time, the conversations between Minjun and Sarah grew a little longer, a little deeper. Why did you come to Korea? Minjun asked one evening, after Hannah had gone to wash up for dinner. Sarah considered the question, turning her teacup in her hands. Running from something or running towards something? Both, maybe. She smiled. Perceptive. I needed a change. I'd been teaching in Atlanta for 3 years after the Peace Corps. Good school, good kids, but I felt stuck. Like I was going through motions. My mother passed away 2 years ago, and after that, everything felt gray. So I thought, why not? Why not try something completely different? Korea seemed as different as I could get. Do you regret it? Not for a second. Teaching here, teaching kids like Hannah, I matter. I make a difference. I can see it. She looked at him. What about you? What made you choose your work? Minjun stiffened slightly. What do you know about my work? I know you're wealthy. I know people at the school are careful when they talk about you. I know your security is excessive for a normal businessman. Sarah's gaze was steady. I'm not stupid, Minjun. And I'm not naive. I grew up in Atlanta. I know what power looks like. And yet you're still here. I'm here for Hannah. Whatever you do, whatever you are outside this house, inside it you're just a father who loves his daughter. That's the man I'm talking to right now. Something in Minjun's chest loosened at those words. Over the following weeks, something shifted. Minjun found himself looking forward to Sarah's visits not just for what they did for Hannah, but for the conversations after. Sarah was sharp, funny, unafraid to challenge him. She treated him like a person, not a position. One evening, Sarah caught him watching through the library door. "You can join us, you know," she said, not looking up from where she was helping Hannah with a puzzle. She'd like that. Minjun wanted to. God, he wanted to. But fear kept him rooted. "I don't want to intrude." "It's not intruding when you're invited." Sarah finally looked at him. "She's your daughter, Minjun. She wants you here." He shook his head and retreated to his office. But the next week, when Hannah asked if Appa could eat dinner with them, Sarah looked at Minjun and waited. "It's up to him," she said to Hannah. Minjun saw his daughter's hopeful face, saw Sarah's encouraging expression, and despite every instinct telling him to maintain distance, to protect himself from the pain of truly engaging, he nodded. "I would like that very much, Hannah." They ate together, Minjun, Hannah, and Sarah. It was awkward at first. Minjun didn't know what to say, how to be. But Sarah kept the conversation flowing, drawing both of them out, creating bridges between father and daughter. Hannah talked about a friend at school. Minjun asked questions, and for the first time in 8 months, they had something like a real conversation. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy, but it was something. After dinner, after Hannah had gone to get ready for bed, Sarah didn't leave right away. "That was good," she said. "What you did tonight." "I barely said anything. You were present. You listened. You tried. That's everything." Minjun looked at her, really looked at her. "Why do you care so much? About Hannah, about me, about any of this?" "Because I see you both trying. I see the love underneath all the grief and fear. And because," Sarah paused, seeming to choose her words carefully, "because I know what it's like to lose someone and forget how to live after. My mother's death almost broke me. I understand that paralysis. So if I can help you both find your way back to each other, why wouldn't I?" "You're remarkable," Minjun said quietly. Sarah met his eyes, and something passed between them, a recognition, a connection. "So are you. You just don't see it yet." The weeks turned into a month, then 2. Sarah became a fixture in the Kim household, her presence bringing warmth to rooms that had been cold for too long. She stayed later each visit, sharing dinners more often than not. Minjun found himself inventing reasons for her to stay, discussing Hannah's progress, asking about teaching methods, anything to extend those moments when the three of them felt almost like a family. One evening in late autumn, after Hannah had gone to bed, Sarah lingered in the living room. Rain drummed against the windows, and Minjun had insisted she wait until the storm passed before calling a taxi. "You've redecorated," Sarah observed, gesturing to the room. Where there had once been stark white walls and minimalist furniture, there were now photographs. Hannah as a baby, Hannah with Soo-jin, family moments frozen in time. A vase of fresh flowers sat on the table. Children's books were scattered on the couch. Hannah did most of it, Minjun admitted. She said the house looked sad. She wanted to see Mommy's face more. I thought seeing reminders would hurt more, but it actually helps. It's like Soo-jin is still here, in a way." "That's beautiful," Sarah said softly. She walked to a photograph of Soo-jin holding newborn Hannah, both of them glowing. She was lovely. She was everything. Minjun stood beside Sarah, looking at his wife's face. "I met her at university. She was studying art history, completely impractical, totally passionate about it. She saw beauty in everything, even in me. Especially in you, I'd imagine." Minjun shook his head. "She knew what I was, what my family did. She chose me anyway. Said love was about seeing someone completely and staying. She stayed through everything. The danger, the secrets, the nights I came home with blood on my hands that wasn't mine. She stayed, and she gave me Hannah, and then..." His voice broke. Sarah touched his arm gently. "You don't have to." She was driving Hannah to a piano lesson. Minjun continued, needing to say it. "A rival organization had been making moves, trying to push into our territory. I'd handled it, or I thought I had. But one of them wanted revenge. He followed Soo-jin's car, ran her off the road on purpose." His hands clenched into fists. Hannah was in the back seat. She watched her mother die and couldn't do anything. Couldn't help. Just like me. I couldn't protect them. Minjun, you can't. I can blame myself. I do. Every single day." He turned to face Sarah fully. "Do you understand now why I pulled away from Hannah? Every time I see her, I remember that I'm the reason her mother is dead. My choices, my life, it killed the woman I loved and traumatized my child." Sarah took his face in her hands, forcing him to meet her eyes. "Listen to me. What happened to Soo-jin was not your fault. It was the fault of violent men who made evil choices. And Hannah doesn't need you to martyr yourself with guilt. She needs her father, the one who's still alive, still here, still capable of loving her. I don't know if I am. Capable, I mean. You are. I see it every time you look at her, even when you're trying to hide it. You love her desperately, Min-jun. You're just afraid. Of course I'm afraid. What if I fail her again? What if? What if you succeed? Sarah interrupted. What if you try, and it's messy and imperfect, but you both heal a little? What if you give yourself permission to be human instead of invincible? They stood close, Sarah's hands still on his face, the rain creating a cocoon of sound around them. Min-jun became acutely aware of the warmth of her touch, the steadiness in her eyes, the fact that this woman had somehow become essential to his life in ways that had nothing to do with Hannah. When did you become so important to me? He asked quietly. Sarah's breath caught. Min-jun, I think about you when you're not here. I look forward to Mondays and Thursdays and Saturdays because they're your days. I watch you with my daughter, and I think. He stopped himself. Think what? That I'm beginning to feel things I have no right to feel. That I'm betraying Sujin by wanting you to stay. Not just for Hannah. For me. Sarah's eyes widened. I've been trying not to think about it. Trying to keep this professional, keep boundaries. But Min-jun, she took a breath. I care about you. More than I should. More than is probably wise. Why isn't it wise? Because you're grieving. Because I'm Hannah's teacher. Because your world is dangerous, and I'm just a woman from Atlanta who teaches children. Sarah dropped her hands, but didn't step back. Because this could get complicated in ways that hurt Hannah, and I won't do that. What if it doesn't have to be complicated? Everything about you is complicated. Min-jun smiled slightly, a rare, genuine expression. Fair point. But Sarah, you've brought light back into this house. Into my daughter. Into me. I don't want to lose that. You won't. I'm not going anywhere. Promise me. I promise. The moment stretched between them, full of possibility and restraint. Then Sarah's phone buzzed. She checked it, breaking the spell. The rain's letting up. I should go. Min-jun wanted to ask her to stay. Wanted to close the distance between them and kiss her the way he'd been imagining for weeks. But he didn't. Because she was right. This was complicated, and Hannah had to come first. I'll have my driver take you home, he said instead. That's not necessary. Please. It's late. Sarah nodded. As she gathered her things, Min-jun walked her to the door. Before she left, she turned back. Min-jun, what you said tonight, about feeling things you have no right to feel. You have every right. Loving again doesn't betray the past. It honors it by choosing to keep living. Then she was gone, leaving Min-jun standing in the doorway, his heart beating harder than it had in months. The next session was awkward. Both of them danced around what had been said, what had almost happened. But Hannah, in her 6-year-old wisdom, seemed to sense something. Teacher Sarah, do you like Appa? She asked during their lesson. Sarah nearly dropped the book she was holding. Of course I like your Appa. He's very kind. No, I mean like how Mommy liked him. Hannah, that's a complicated question. Why is it complicated? Hannah tilted her head. Mommy told me before the accident. She said if something happened to her, she wanted Appa to be happy again. She said love doesn't run out. There's always more. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Your mommy was very wise. So do you? Like him? Yes, Sarah admitted. I do. Is that okay with you? Hannah considered this seriously. Then she nodded. Mommy would like you. You make Appa smile. He never smiles. When Min-jun came to check on them later, Hannah announced, Appa, I told teacher Sarah it's okay if she likes you. Mommy would want you to be happy. Min-jun looked at Sarah, who had turned bright red. Hannah, that's not. We're not. It's okay, Appa. I know grown-ups are weird about feelings. But I'm just saying, it's okay with me. Hannah went back to her coloring as if she hadn't just detonated a bomb in the room. After the lesson, after Hannah had bounded off to play, Min-jun and Sarah stood in the hallway, both acutely aware of the shift that had occurred. I didn't put her up to that, Sarah said quickly. I know. Hannah has her mother's tendency toward blunt honesty. Min-jun ran a hand through his hair. But she's right, isn't she? About how we feel. Min-jun, we should be careful. For her sake. I'm tired of being careful. I've been careful for 8 months, and all it's done is make me and Hannah miserable. You're the first thing that's felt right since Sujin died. He stepped closer. Tell me you don't feel this. Tell me it's all in my head, and I'll step back. I'll keep this professional. But if you feel even a fraction of what I feel. I feel it, Sarah whispered. I feel it so much it scares me. Then why are we fighting it? Because I need to know this is real. Not just grief seeking comfort. Not just loneliness finding company. I need to know that if we do this, if we cross this line, it's because you truly want me. Not because I remind you of what you lost, or because I'm convenient, or... Minjun kissed her. It was soft, tentative, asking permission even as it declared intent. Sarah froze for half a second, then melted into it, her hands coming up to grip his shoulders. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Minjun rested his forehead against hers. You are nothing like Sujin, he said quietly. You're strong where she was gentle. You challenged me where she accepted me. You're your own person, remarkable and irreplaceable. And yes, I want you. Not as a replacement, not as a comfort. As you. Sarah, the woman who saved my daughter. The woman who's saving me. Sarah's eyes shimmered with tears. I want you too. But Minjun, your world. I need to know what I'm walking into. Really know. He pulled back slightly. You're right. Come with me. Minjun led her to his office, closed the door, and told her everything. About the Kim family organization, about the territories they controlled, about the violence that sometimes came with the work, about the enemies he'd made, the blood on his hands, the moral compromises he'd accepted as necessary. Sarah listened without interrupting, her expression unreadable. Sujin's death wasn't random, he finished. It was a message, and anyone close to me becomes a potential target. That's what you'd be signing up for. Danger. Security details. Always looking over your shoulder. That's my reality. Are you trying to scare me away? I'm trying to be honest. You deserve to choose this with open eyes. Sarah stood, walked to the window overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. Minjun watched her, his heart in his throat, waiting for her to say this was too much, that she couldn't do it. Finally, she turned back. I grew up in Atlanta in a neighborhood where gunshots were background noise. My father left when I was 5. My mother worked 3 jobs to keep us fed. I learned early that the world is dangerous, that safety is often an illusion, that the only real choice is whether you live in fear or live despite it. She walked back to him. I choose to live despite it. With you. If you'll have me. If I'll. Sarah, you're offering to enter a world of violence and crime for me. The question is whether you'll have me. Broken, dangerous, still grieving me. You're not broken. You're healing. There's a difference. She took his hands. And yes, I'll have you. All of you. The grief, the danger, the complications. Because when I look at you, I see a man trying desperately to be good despite everything pushing him toward darkness. I see a father who loves his daughter enough to face his own pain. I see someone worth taking a risk for. Minjun pulled her close, holding her like she might disappear. I love you, he said into her hair. I didn't think I'd ever say those words again, but I love you. I love you too, Sarah whispered back. They stood there, holding each other, 2 broken people choosing to be whole together. The next few weeks felt like living in a dream. Minjun and Sarah navigated their new relationship carefully, keeping displays of affection private when Hannah was around, but the child seemed to sense the shift anyway. She grew even happier, more animated, as if the tension that had filled the house was finally dissipating. Sarah still came for tutoring sessions, but now she stayed for dinner every time. They became a unit, the 3 of them around the table, sharing meals and stories. Minjun found himself laughing again, really laughing, at Sarah's stories about her students or Hannah's innocent observations about the world. One Saturday afternoon, Sarah suggested they go to the park. Minjun hesitated. Public outings meant exposure, vulnerability, but the hope in Hannah's eyes demolished his objections. They went to Seoul Forest, Minjun's security team maintaining a discreet distance. Hannah ran ahead to feed the deer, her laughter carrying on the autumn breeze. Minjun and Sarah walked hand in hand, and for a few precious hours, they were just a normal family enjoying a beautiful day. Look, Appa, teacher Sarah, the deer ate from my hand, Hannah shouted, turning back to them with pure joy radiating from her small face. I see, sunshine. You're very brave, Sarah called back. Minjun squeezed Sarah's hand. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For this. For giving us normal. I'd forgotten what it felt like. Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder briefly. You deserve normal, Minjun. So does Hannah. You both deserve happiness. But happiness, Minjun had learned, was fragile, and his world didn't forgive vulnerability. The threat came on a Tuesday evening. Minjun was in a meeting with his inner circle when Taeyong received a message. His second-in-command's face went pale, and he immediately requested a private word. In Minjun's office, Taeyong showed him the photos. Sarah leaving her apartment. Sarah at the school. Sarah entering the Kim mansion. And with the photos, a message. The boss has a new weakness. How convenient. It was from the Choi organization, the same group responsible for Sujin's death. Minjun's blood turned to ice. When did this come in? 20 minutes ago. Boss, we need to increase security immediately. The teacher her name is Sarah. Minjun's voice was deadly quiet. And yes, increase security. Double the detail on Hannah. I want eyes on Sarah 24/7. She doesn't go anywhere without protection. Should we tell her to stay away? At least until we neutralize the threat. Every instinct screamed yes. Push her away. Keep her safe. Repeat the pattern of isolation that had defined the last 8 months. But Minjun thought of Sarah's words. I choose to live despite it. No, but we tell her the truth. She deserves to know what she's facing. That evening, when Sarah arrived for Hannah's lesson, Minjun asked her to come to his office first. His face must have conveyed the seriousness because Sarah's smile faded immediately. What's wrong? He showed her the photos, watched her face as she processed what they meant. The Choi organization, he explained. They killed Sujin. Now they know about you, about what you mean to me and Hannah. They're sending a message that they can reach us through you. Sarah sat down slowly. So what do? I'm assigning you a security detail. 2 men, rotating shifts. They'll be with you at all times when you're not here. Minjun, I can't have bodyguards following me to school. How would I explain that? I don't care how you explain it. Your safety is important, I know. But so is my life, my job, my independence. Sarah rubbed her temples. There has to be another way. There isn't. Sarah, these people murdered my wife and traumatized my daughter. I can't lose you too. The raw fear in his voice stopped her arguments. She stood, went to him, and took his face in her hands. You won't lose me. But Minjun, we can't live in fear. That's not living, that's just existing. There has to be a middle ground. What are you suggesting? I'll accept security when I'm coming and going from here. But at school, in my daily life, I need to be able to breathe. I'll be careful, aware, but I won't be a prisoner. If something happens to you, it won't. And if it does, that's not on you. That's on the men who choose violence. She kissed him softly. I'm not Sujin. I know what I signed up for. I'm not backing out now. Minjun held her close, breathing in her scent, trying to memorize every detail in case his worst fears came true. I love you, he whispered. I love you too. Now let me go teach our girl. Our girl. The words settled in Minjun's chest like an anchor. But despite security, despite precautions, the threats escalated. A week later, Sarah's apartment was broken into. Nothing was taken, but the message was clear: we can get to you whenever we want. Minjun insisted she move into the mansion immediately. Sarah resisted at first, concerned about appearances, about moving too fast, but when Hannah added her own tearful plea, Please, teacher Sarah, I'm scared something bad will happen like with mommy, Sarah agreed. Moving in changed everything. The tutoring sessions became seamless parts of daily life. Sarah and Hannah cooked together in the evenings, American soul food mixing with Korean dishes, creating fusion meals that made Hannah giggle and Minjun's heart swell. They watched movies together, curled up on the couch like a real family. Sarah read Hannah bedtime stories, her voice gentle and soothing. And at night, after Hannah was asleep, Minjun and Sarah had each other. They talked for hours, learning each other's histories, dreams, fears. They made love slowly, carefully, 2 people learning to trust again. Sarah traced the scars on Minjun's body, physical evidence of his dangerous life, and kissed each one. Minjun worshipped her strength, her softness, the miracle of her presence in his life. Do you ever regret it? He asked one night, holding her in the darkness of his bedroom. Choosing this? Choosing us? Never, Sarah said without hesitation. Do you? I regret the danger I've put you in. But choosing you? Loving you? Never. But love, Minjun was learning, sometimes meant making impossible choices. The attack came on a Thursday. Sarah was leaving school, her security detail flanking her as usual. The black SUV pulled up, and she was almost to the vehicle when the first shots rang out. Her guards reacted instantly, pushing her down, returning fire. The school erupted in chaos, children screaming, teachers hurting students inside. The shooters, 3 men in motorcycle helmets, fired indiscriminately before speeding away. Sarah wasn't hit, but one of her guards took a bullet to the shoulder. The other guard called it in immediately. Min Jun received the call during a business meeting. He was out the door before Taeyong finished the sentence, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. He found Sarah at the hospital, unharmed physically but shaking. The moment she saw him, she collapsed into his arms. I'm okay, she kept saying, like a mantra. But Min Jun, there were children there. The school, what if one of them had been hit? What if? Sure, I know. He held her tight, fury and fear warring in his chest. The Choi organization had crossed a line. This wasn't just about him anymore. They'd put innocent children at risk. Later, at home, after they'd assured Hannah that teacher Sarah was fine, just a little scared but completely safe, Min Jun made a decision. I'm stepping back, he told Taeyong in his office. Sarah sat beside him, her hand in his. Taeyong's eyebrows shot up. Boss. From active operations. You'll take over day-to-day management. I'll remain as advisor, but I'm done being a target. Done making my family targets. The organization. We'll survive. We'll thrive, probably. You're more than capable, Taeyong. You've been running half of it already. Min Jun's voice was firm. But this, today, was the final warning. I won't risk my daughter's safety anymore. I won't risk Sarah's life. I choose them. I choose differently. Taeyong looked at Sarah, then back at Min Jun. Some of the men won't like this. Anyone who has a problem with my decision can challenge me directly. Min Jun's voice dropped to the deadly quiet tone that had made him feared throughout Seoul. I'm stepping back, not stepping down. I'm still Kim Min Jun. I still have power, connections, resources. But my priority is my family now. Understood, boss. After Taeyong left, Sarah turned to Min Jun. Are you sure? I don't want you to give up your life for me. I'm not giving it up. I'm choosing a different one. A better one. He cupped her face. Sarah, when those shots were fired today, my entire world stopped. The only thought in my head was that I couldn't lose you. That I couldn't make Hannah bury another person she loved. That I couldn't survive it myself. So yes, I'm sure. Nothing is worth risking what we have. Sarah kissed him deeply. I love you so much. I love you too. And I'm going to keep you safe. Both of you. Whatever it takes. But the Choi organization wasn't finished. 2 days after the shooting, they sent another message. Photos of Hannah at school, at the park, at home. The implication was clear. We can reach your daughter anytime. Min Jun called an emergency meeting. Not with his organization, but with the Choi family directly. It was dangerous, potentially suicidal, but he was done playing defense. He met them in a neutral location, an abandoned warehouse in Incheon, his entire security team on high alert. Across from him sat Choi Sung-ho, the patriarch of the rival organization, flanked by his own men. You wanted my attention, Min Jun said coldly. You have it. Choi smiled, a predator's expression. You've gone soft, Kim. Taking in a foreign woman, playing house, stepping back from business. Your father would be ashamed. My father is dead, and I didn't come here to discuss my personal life. I came to end this. And what? We're just getting started. You took our territory in Itaewon. We took your wife. Now we're going to take everything else you love, piece by piece. Min Jun's jaw tightened, but his voice remained level. What do you want, Choi? Name your price. Price. Choi laughed. This isn't about money, Kim. This is about respect. About showing everyone in Seoul that the great Kim Min Jun isn't untouchable anymore. Then let's settle this between us. You and me. Leave my family out of it. Where's the fun in that? Min Jun leaned forward, his eyes hard as diamonds. You killed my wife. You traumatized my 6-year-old daughter. You shot at a school full of innocent children. Whatever grievance you have with me, they didn't deserve that. So here's what's going to happen. He slid a folder across the table. Choi opened it, his smile fading. That's documentation of every illegal deal, every bribe, every murder your organization has committed in the last 10 years. Copies are with 3 different attorneys, with instructions to deliver them to the prosecutor's office if anything happens to me or anyone I care about. Choi's face darkened. You're threatening me? I'm protecting what's mine. You want to come after me? Fine. But my daughter, my woman, innocent civilians, they're off limits. You touch them, and I burn your entire organization to the ground, even if I have to do it from prison. You think? I think you're a businessman, Choi, just like me. Min Jun's voice was steel-wrapped in ice. And businessmen understand cost-benefit analysis. So let me lay it out for you clearly. You can continue this vendetta, keep coming after my family, and in the process, lose everything. Your freedom, your empire, your legacy. Or you can accept that Itaewon is mine, Take the compensation I'm offering for your lost territory, triple the actual value, by the way, which you'll find outlined in that folder, and we go our separate ways. We stay out of each other's business. We both get to keep what matters. Choi flipped through the folder, his expression unreadable. The warehouse was silent except for the distant sound of ships in the harbor. Min Jun's men stood ready, hands near their weapons. One wrong move, one wrong word, and this would end in blood. You've changed, Kim, Choi finally said. The old you would have come in here with guns blazing. Consequences be damned. The old me didn't have a daughter who wakes up screaming from nightmares about her mother's death. The old me didn't have a woman he loves who teaches children and believes in second chances. Min Jun's voice softened slightly. I'm trying to be better, Choi. For them. But make no mistake, I'm still capable of burning your world down. I just prefer not to. Choi studied him for a long moment. Then he closed the folder and stood. Triple value, you said? Triple. Plus, I'll pull my operations out of 2 neutral zones we've both been eyeing. You can have them without a fight. And if I agree, you'll destroy this evidence. No. But it stays locked away unless you give me a reason to use it. Insurance, Choi. Just insurance. Choi extended his hand. We have a deal, Kim. But if you ever come after my territory again, I won't. I'm a family man now. I just want peace. They shook hands, and Min Jun felt a weight lift from his shoulders. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't guaranteed. But it was a chance at the normal life he'd promised Sarah and Hannah. When he returned home that night, Sarah was waiting up for him, curled on the couch with a book. She took one look at his face and knew. Is it over? It's over. We have a truce. Hannah is safe. You're safe. Sarah set down her book and walked into his arms. Min Jun held her tight, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling her heartbeat against his chest. I was terrified, she admitted. The whole time you were gone, I kept thinking about what Hannah said earlier, about how she didn't want to lose another person, and I realized I didn't want to lose you either. You won't. I promised you I'd choose differently, and I did. I'm done with the violence, Sarah. Taeyong is running operations now. I'm just an advisor, a silent partner. My focus is here, with you and Hannah. Sarah pulled back to look at him. What does that mean exactly? For your future? It means I'm thinking about legitimate business. Taeyong and I discussed investing the organization's money into legal ventures, real estate, technology, hospitality, cleaning up the Kim family legacy so that Hannah inherits something she can be proud of, not ashamed of. That's a big change. You're worth a big change. Hannah deserves a father who doesn't have blood on his hands. Min Jun cupped Sarah's face. I can't erase my past, but I can choose my future. And I choose this. Us. A life where Hannah doesn't have to be afraid, where you don't need bodyguards, where we can just be. Sarah kissed him, deep and thorough. I'm so proud of you, she whispered against his lips. They made love that night with a new urgency, a new freedom. The threat that had hung over them was gone. They were safe. They were together. They were building something real. The next morning, Min Jun woke to the sound of laughter coming from the kitchen. He found Sarah and Hannah making pancakes, flour dusting both their faces, the kitchen a beautiful disaster of mixing bowls and spilled ingredients. Appa, Hannah shouted when she saw him. We're making American pancakes. Teacher Sarah is teaching me. I can see that. Min Jun smiled, leaning against the doorframe, just watching them. Sarah caught his eye and winked. Come on, join us, she said. Hannah, show your Appa how to flip a pancake. And so Min Jun found himself in the kitchen, his daughter instructing him seriously on the proper pancake flipping technique, Sarah laughing at his first failed attempt that landed half on the pan and half on the stove. Appa, you're terrible at this. Hannah giggled. I know. I'm better at other things. Like what? Like loving you. He scooped her up, making her shriek with laughter. Like tickling little girls who criticize my cooking. Sarah watched them, her heart full. This man who had been so closed off, so frozen in grief, was laughing and playing with his daughter like grief had never touched him. Except it had, and that made this moment even more precious, because it was hard-won, fought for, chosen deliberately. After breakfast, after the kitchen was cleaned and Hannah was occupied with her coloring books, Sarah and Min Jun sat on the terrace overlooking the garden. I've been thinking, Sarah said. About us, about the future. Min Jun tensed slightly. Should I be worried? No. Actually, I wanted to talk about something serious. About Hannah. What about her? Sarah took his hand. She asked me yesterday if I was going to be her new mommy. Not eventually, not someday now. And I didn't know what to tell her, Minjun. We've never really discussed what this is, where we're going. Minjun was quiet for a moment, processing. What did you tell her? I told her that I loved her very much, and that I loved her Appa very much, but that grown-up relationships were complicated and we needed to take things one step at a time. Sarah looked at him. But the truth is, I want to be that for her. I want to be in her life permanently, not just as a teacher or even as your girlfriend, but as family. If that's what you want to. Sarah. Minjun turned to face her fully. I've been in love with you for months. I've been imagining you as permanent since the first time Hannah laughed for you. The question isn't whether I want this. I do desperately. The question is whether you're ready for what that means. What does it mean? It means being Hannah's mother in all the ways that matter. It means accepting that Sujin will always be part of our story, that there will be days when Hannah misses her first mommy so much that nothing you do will be enough. It means loving a traumatized child through her healing, which is messy and nonlinear and heartbreaking sometimes. I know all that. It also means marrying me, making this legal and official, because I won't ask you to be Hannah's mother without giving you the security and commitment of being my wife. Minjun reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I've been carrying this for 2 weeks, waiting for the right moment. Maybe there is no perfect moment. Maybe the right time is just now. He opened the box, revealing a ring, a simple platinum band with a single diamond, elegant and understated, so unlike the flashy jewelry his world usually favored. Sarah's hands flew to her mouth. Minjun. Sarah Collins, will you marry me? Will you be Hannah's mother and my wife? Will you take on this complicated, messy, sometimes dangerous life and help me make it beautiful? Tears streamed down Sarah's face. Yes. Yes, of course, yes. Minjun slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into his arms. They sat there, holding each other, until they heard a gasp from the doorway. Hannah stood there, eyes wide. Are you and teacher Sarah getting married? Sarah laughed through her tears. Yes, sunshine. We are. Hannah let out a squeal that probably echoed through the entire neighborhood and launched herself at them. Minjun caught her, pulling her into their embrace. And for the first time since Sujin's death, the three of them held each other as a complete family. Does this mean teacher Sarah will be my new mommy? Hannah asked, her face pressed between them. Sarah pulled back to look at her. Only if that's okay with you, Hannah. Your first mommy will always be your mommy. I can't replace her, and I would never try. But I can love you just as much in my own way, if you'll let me. Hannah was quiet, thinking with the seriousness only children can manage when dealing with big emotions. Then she said, Mommy told me something before the accident. She said love makes more love. Like how when Apple loved her, it made me, and that was more love. So if you love Apple and me, that's even more love, right? That's exactly right, Minjun said softly, his voice thick. Then yes, you can be my new mommy. And mommy in heaven won't be sad because there's more love now. Hannah looked between them. Right, Sarah agreed, crying openly now. Your mommy would be so proud of you, Hannah, and so grateful that you're brave enough to love again. They spent the rest of the day planning where to have the wedding, when, who to invite. Hannah had opinions on everything, insisting that there should be butterflies because teacher Sarah taught her to draw butterflies, and that's when everything got better. That evening, after Hannah had finally fallen asleep, exhausted from excitement, Sarah and Minjun lay in bed together. Are you scared? Minjun asked. Terrified, Sarah admitted. I'm about to become a wife and a mother in one move. I've never been either before. What if I'm terrible at it? You won't be. You've already been mothering Hannah for months. You're natural at it. Being a teacher is different from being a parent. Not as different as you think. And Sarah? You won't be alone. We'll figure it out together. The three of us. Sarah turned to face him. I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me we'll keep talking to Hannah about Sujin. That we'll make sure she knows her first mother, knows the stories, sees the photos. I don't want her to forget. Minjun felt his throat tighten. I promise. Sujin is part of our family, always. Her love created Hannah, and Hannah's existence brought you to me. It's all connected. I love you, Minjun Kim. I love you, Sarah's soon-to-be Kim. They made love slowly, tenderly, two people on the edge of a new beginning. Outside, Seoul glittered under the night sky, full of danger and beauty and possibility. But in this room, in this bed, there was only safety and warmth and the promise of tomorrow. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of wedding planning. Sarah wanted something small and intimate, just close friends and family. Minjun agreed, though he insisted on enough security to protect a small nation, which Sarah had learned not to argue about. They decided on a garden ceremony at the mansion, simple and beautiful. Hannah was to be the flower girl, a role she took very seriously, practicing her walk down the aisle every day after school. 3 days before the wedding, Sarah took Hannah to visit Sujin's grave. It was something they'd discussed, Minjun, Sarah, and their therapist, who had been working with all three of them on blending their family. At the cemetery, Hannah placed flowers on her mother's headstone, white chrysanthemums, Sujin's favorites. "Hi, Mommy," Hannah said softly. "I brought teacher Sarah. She's going to marry Appa. Is that okay?" Sarah knelt beside Hannah, her hand on the child's shoulder. She spoke to the headstone, to the woman she'd never met, but whose presence had shaped everything. "I promise I'll take care of them," Sarah said quietly. "I'll love your daughter like she's my own. I'll honor your memory and make sure Hannah knows how much you loved her. I'll be good to Minjun, help him heal, stand by him. I know I can't replace you, and I won't try, but I'll do my best to make them happy. I hope that's enough." Hannah looked up at Sarah. "Mommy says it is." "She does. I can feel it. She's happy. She wants us to be happy too." Sarah pulled Hannah into a hug, both of them crying, both of them healing. The morning of the wedding dawned clear and bright, autumn sun filtering through the leaves of the garden where they'd set up rows of white chairs. Sarah woke early, her heart racing with nerves and excitement. In just a few hours, she would become Mrs. Kim, would officially become Hannah's mother, would permanently bind her life to this man and this child who had transformed her entire world. Her small bridal party, 2 teacher friends from school, and her cousin who'd flown in from Atlanta, helped her dress. The gown was simple, elegant ivory silk that flowed like water, with delicate lace sleeves. Nothing too flashy, nothing that screamed wealth. Just beautiful. "You look stunning," her cousin Maya said, adjusting Sarah's veil. "I still can't believe you're marrying a Korean mafia boss. Mom nearly had a heart attack when you told her." Sarah laughed. "Former mafia boss. He's going legitimate, remember?" Sure. Just promise me the reception won't involve any shootouts." "I promise." Minjun has reformed. Mostly. There was a soft knock on the door, and Hannah peeked in, already dressed in her flower girl dress, pale pink with a white sash, her hair done up with small white flowers woven through. "Teacher Sarah, can I come in?" "Of course, sunshine." Hannah entered shyly, her eyes going wide when she saw Sarah in her wedding dress. "You look like a princess," she breathed. "You look like a princess too," Sarah said, kneeling down carefully. "Are you ready for today?" Hannah nodded, then bit her lip. "Teacher Sarah, can I call you something else now? Since you're going to be my new mommy." Sarah's heart squeezed. "What would you like to call me?" "Maybe Mama Sarah. So I have Mommy for my first mommy in heaven, and Mama Sarah for you." Sarah had to blink back tears, not wanting to ruin her makeup. "I would love that, Hannah. I would love that so much." Hannah threw her arms around Sarah's neck. "I love you, Mama Sarah. I love you too, sunshine. So much." Maya cleared her throat, clearly emotional herself. "Okay, you two are going to make everyone cry before the ceremony even starts. Hannah, sweetie, should we go check on your dad? Make sure he's ready." Hannah nodded and skipped out, her flower basket swinging. Alone for a moment, Sarah looked at herself in the mirror. A year ago, she'd been alone in Atlanta, grieving her mother, going through the motions of life without really living. Now she was in Seoul, about to marry a man who'd been a stranger just months ago, about to become a mother to a traumatized little girl who'd stolen her heart. Life was strange and beautiful and terrifying. The music started. Sarah's hands trembled as she took her position. The garden was filled with maybe 40 people. Minjun's closest associates, a few family members, Sarah's small circle of friends, teachers from the school. Small and intimate, just as they'd wanted. Hannah walked down the aisle first, carefully dropping rose petals, her face serious with concentration. When she reached the front, she grinned at her father, who stood waiting in a tailored black suit, looking more handsome than should be legal. Then it was Sarah's turn. She had no father to walk her down the aisle. He'd left when she was 5, so she walked alone, which felt right somehow. She'd chosen this path herself, claimed this life through her own courage and love. Minjun's expression when he saw her nearly undid her composure. His eyes filled with tears that he didn't bother to hide, his love written plainly across his face for everyone to see. This man who'd been so closed off, so frozen, was openly crying at his own wedding. When Sarah reached him, he took her hands, and she could feel him trembling. "You're beautiful," he whispered. "You're not so bad yourself," she whispered back. The officiant began the ceremony, speaking in both Korean and English. They'd written their own vows, wanting words that reflected their unique journey. Minjun went first, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "Sarah, when you walked into my daughter's classroom, you brought light into a life I thought would be dark forever. You saw past my walls, my mistakes, my grief, and you chose to love me anyway. You loved my daughter when she was broken, and you helped me learn to be her father again. You taught me that healing is possible, that second chances are real, that love doesn't run out, it multiplies. I promise to honor you, protect you, stand beside you through everything life brings. I promise to be the man you deserve, to keep growing, keep changing, keep choosing light over darkness. I promise to love you fiercely and completely for all my days." Sarah was already crying when her turn came. She took a breath, steadying herself. "Minjun, I came to Korea running from grief, looking for purpose, hoping to matter. I never expected to find home in a mansion in Gangnam, in the heart of a man who'd forgotten how to hope, in the smile of a little girl who needed love as much as I needed to give it. You showed me that broken people can heal each other, that families can be built from loss and choice and courage. You trusted me with your daughter, with your heart, with your truth. I promised to love Hannah as my own, to honor Sujin's memory, to stand by you as you build a better legacy. I promised to be brave when you're scared, to be soft when you're hard, to remind you who you are when you forget. I promised to love you completely, today and every day after." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden. Even Taeyong, standing as Minjun's best man, was wiping his face. "Do you, Kim Minjun, take Sarah Collins to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." "Do you, Sarah Collins, take Kim Minjun to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "I do." "Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride." Minjun cupped Sarah's face tenderly and kissed her as if she were the most precious thing in the world. The garden erupted in applause. Hannah jumped up and down, clapping and cheering. When they broke apart, both grinning, Hannah ran up and grabbed both their hands. "We're a family now," she announced to everyone. A real family. The reception was joyful and surprisingly normal. No violence, no threats, just people celebrating love. They danced. Sarah's first dance with Minjun was to a song about second chances, and there wasn't a person there who didn't understand why. Minjun danced with Hannah, lifting her feet onto his as they swayed, her giggling filling the air. Sarah danced with Hannah too, the little girl standing on her feet, and Sarah whispered, "I'm so lucky to be your mama, Sarah." "I'm lucky too," Hannah whispered back. As the evening wore on and the guests began to leave, the three of them stood together watching the sun set over Seoul. Hannah was between them, holding both their hands, fighting sleep, but refusing to go to bed because she didn't want the day to end. "This is the best day ever," Hannah murmured. "It really is," Sarah agreed. Minjun looked at his wife, and his daughter, and felt something he hadn't felt since before Sujin died. Complete. Whole. Like all the broken pieces had finally found their way back together, not in the same configuration as before, but in something new and beautiful. "I love you both," he said quietly. "We love you too, Appa," Hannah said, then yawned hugely. "All right, sunshine, time for bed," Sarah said, scooping Hannah up. The child didn't even protest, just nestled into Sarah's arms like she'd been doing it forever. They walked into the house together, this new family, carrying hope and love and the promise of tomorrow. 6 months later, things had settled into a beautiful routine. Minjun had successfully transitioned his operations to Taeyong and was now focused on legitimate business ventures. The Kim Group, rebranded and legal, was investing in technology startups and real estate development. Minjun went to an office like a normal businessman, came home for dinner every night, helped Hannah with homework. Sarah had left the international school to homeschool Hannah, wanting to give the child more individualized attention as she continued to heal from her trauma. They spent mornings on academics, afternoons on art and music and play. Hannah was thriving, laughing more, nightmares coming less frequently. The three of them had started weekly therapy sessions together, learning to be a family, working through the complicated dynamics of grief and new love and blended identities. It wasn't always easy. There were hard days when Hannah missed Sujin so much she couldn't stop crying. Days when Minjun retreated into old patterns of emotional distance. Days when Sarah felt inadequate, like she'd never measure up to the perfect memory of the first wife. But they worked through it. Together. One evening, almost a year to the day from when Minjun had first seen Sarah at the school, they sat together in the library where it had all begun. Hannah was curled up with a book, reading quietly. Sarah was grading some online teaching work she'd taken on. Minjun was reviewing business proposals. It was beautifully, perfectly ordinary. Mama Sarah? Hannah looked up from her book. Yes, sunshine. I wrote something at therapy today. Dr. Kim said I could share it with you if I wanted. I'd love to hear it. Hannah climbed into Sarah's lap, unfolding a piece of paper. She read in her careful, 7-year-old voice. I used to be sad all the time because my first mommy died. I thought I would be sad forever. But then Mama Sarah came and taught me that love doesn't end. It just grows. Now I have 2 mommies, one in heaven who gave me life, and one on earth who teaches me how to live it. I have my Appa who is sad too, but isn't anymore. We're all broken pieces that fit together into something new. Dr. Kim says that's called healing. I think it's called family. Sarah couldn't speak, couldn't see through her tears. Minjun set down his papers and came to them, wrapping his arms around both his girls. That's beautiful, Hannah, he managed. It's true, Hannah said simply. We're a family. A real, whole family. And they were. Not despite the brokenness, but because of it. Because they'd chosen each other, chosen to heal together, chosen love over fear. Sarah had come to Korea looking for purpose and had found everything. Minjun had been drowning in grief and had been pulled back to shore. Hannah had been lost and had been found. Together, they'd built something that honored the past while embracing the future. Life wasn't perfect. There were still challenges. Minjun's past sometimes caught up with them, requiring careful navigation. Sarah still sometimes felt like an outsider in Korean culture. Hannah still had moments of profound grief for her first mother. But they faced it all together. This family built from loss and choice and courage. And every day, in small and large ways, they chose love. They chose each other. They chose to keep building this beautiful, complicated, perfectly imperfect life. Because that's what families do. Not the families you're born into necessarily, but the families you choose, the families you fight for. The families you build from hope and love and unwavering commitment. The Kim family, Minjun, Sarah, and Hannah, was proof that even the darkest grief can give way to light. That broken people can heal each other. That love, real love, doesn't replace what came before. It honors it by choosing to live fully, love deeply, and believe in second chances. As the 3 of them sat together in that library, the same room where Sarah had first taught Hannah to draw butterflies, where trust had been built and love had grown, they were living proof of their own transformation. Like butterflies emerging from cocoons, they'd struggled through darkness and emerged into light. Together, always together. The lesson here is profound and universal. Grief doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be a chapter that leads to unexpected beauty. Healing isn't about forgetting the past. It's about honoring it while choosing to live fully in the present. Love doesn't run out or diminish when shared. It multiplies, creating space for more connection, more joy, more life. Family isn't just about blood. It's about choice, commitment, and the courage to open your heart even when it's been broken. And sometimes, the people who save us are the ones we least expect. A teacher who sees a child's pain, a child who reminds a father how to love, a father who learns that vulnerability is strength, not weakness. Minjun learned that protecting his daughter meant being emotionally present, not just physically safe. Sarah learned that home isn't a place, but the people you choose to build a life with. Hannah learned that loving new people doesn't betray the memory of those you've lost. Together, they learned that broken pieces can be put back together in new patterns that are just as beautiful, sometimes more so, than the original. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey with Minjun, Sarah, and Hannah. If this story touched your heart, moved you, or made you believe in second chances, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that healing is possible, that love can bloom even in the darkest soil, and that families can be built from hope and courage. Drop a comment below telling us what moment resonated most with you. Your support helps us create more stories like this, stories that remind us all of our shared humanity, our capacity for resilience, and our endless potential for love. Until next time, remember, your story isn't over. The best chapters might still be ahead, waiting to be written. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.